Revenge with Karen.
The fog in Silicon Valley doesn't roll in like it does in the movies. It sits on you, heavy and damp, smelling of eucalyptus and burnt venture capital. It was 6:45 a.m. The air was still crisp, the kind of morning where you can hear the hum of the server farms in the basement of Building C if you listen hard enough. I love this time of day. It's the only time my campus feels like mine before the armada of Teslas and Rivians invades, bringing with them a tidal wave of matcha lattes and unearned confidence. I was walking the perimeter of the plaza, checking the landscaping. My late husband, Robert, used to say that you could judge the health of a company by the state of its hydrangeas. If the irrigation is broken, the cash flow is next. I stopped by the main entrance of the flagship building, the glass monolith that currently housed Vertex AI, flavor of the month startup that had leased the top 3 floors 6 months ago. That's when I saw it. A Bentley Continental GT, matte black wrap, custom rims that probably cost more than my first house. It was parked diagonally across 2 spaces. Not just any 2 spaces, but the striped loading zone and my spot. The one with the faded white stencil that reads Reserved A. Mercer. I stood there, sipping my black coffee from a thermos that's seen more job sites than a union foreman, just staring at the audacity of it. The engine was still ticking, cooling down. It looked like a bruised beetle sitting on my asphalt. Suddenly, the glass doors of the lobby swung open. Out walked a man who looked like he had been generated by an AI prompted with arrogant tech director, 30s, Adderall addiction. He was wearing a vest that was too tight, loafers with no socks, holding 2 iPhones. This was Devin, the new director of operations for Vertex. I'd seen his picture on their website, usually captioned with a quote about disrupting paradigms. He didn't look at my face. Men like Devin never look at the face of a woman over 40 unless she's holding a checkbook or a subpoena. He looked at my work boots, practical, leather, steel toe, and my heavy canvas jacket. He saw the ring of keys clipped to my belt loop. "Hey, you," barked, not breaking stride. I turned slowly. "Excuse me, your facilities, right? Or valet, whatever." He stopped 5 feet away from me, scrolling on one of his phones. "I'm late for a scrum. Park this. And don't scratch the rims or I'll have your job." He tossed the keys. It was an underhand toss, lazy and dismissive. The heavy fob arched through the morning mist. Time seemed to dilate. In that second, I had a choice. I could catch them. I could explain who I was. I could explain that I own the asphalt he's standing on, the building behind him, and technically, the air he's currently polluting with his cologne. I didn't move my hands. I didn't flinch. I just watched the fob hit the pavement with a satisfying crack of plastic meeting concrete. It skittered across the ground and landed in a puddle of condensation dripping from the hydrangeas. Devin stopped scrolling. He looked at the keys, then at me, his face twisting into a mask of pure, adulterated shock. It was the face of a toddler who had just been told no for the first time in his life. "Are you deaf?" He screamed, his voice cracking. "Pick them up. That is a $200,000 machine." I took a slow sip of my coffee. "It's parked in a tow-away zone," I said, my voice calm, flat, the voice of a woman who has buried a husband and negotiated commercial leases in a Shark Tank. "And you dropped your keys." "I tossed them to you. You're the help." Stepped closer, invading my personal space. He smelled of stale energy drinks and expensive moisturizer. "Do you know who I am? I'm the director of operations here. I could buy and sell you before lunch." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of predator watching a gazelle limp. "I suggest you move the car, Devin. The tow trucks in the city are predatory. They don't care about your job title." "Screw you," he spat. He bent down, snatched his keys out of the puddle, and wiped them on his pants. "I'm leaving it there. Touch it and I sue. I'm going to call the management company and have you fired by noon." "What's your name? Karen? Brenda?" "Ava," I said softly. "Well, Ava, start updating your resume. You're done." He stormed back into the building, leaving the Bentley straddling the lines, a black monument to his ego. I stood there for a moment, listening to the automatic doors slide shut. Heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. In fact, a cold, crystalline clarity had settled over me. He thought I was the help. He thought I was a ghost in the machine of his success. By the way, if you want to see how a middle-aged widow dismantles a tech bro piece by piece, hit subscribe and maybe drop a like. It really motivates the team to keep digging up these stories, and trust me, the tea I'm about to spill is piping hot. But seriously, do it now, because once the legal subpoenas start flying in later chapters, you won't want to miss a notification. Okay, back to the carnage. I pulled out my phone. I didn't call the tow truck. Not yet, that would be too easy. That would be a skirmish, and I was planning a war. I opened the Notes app and started a new file. I titled it Project Bentley. I walked to the service entrance, swiped my master key card, the one that grants access to every door, every server room, every mechanical shaft in the complex, and made my way up to my office. It's on the 4th floor, tucked away behind the mechanical rooms. It's modest. No glass walls, no bean bags, just a solid oak desk, a view of the entire plaza, and a safe containing the original deeds to the land. From my window, I looked down at the Bentley. It was a stain on my property, but it was also a gift. Devin had just handed me the one thing I needed to clean house, a reason. He thought he was the king of the castle because he rented the throne room. He forgot about the landlord who owned the stone. I sat down, opened my laptop, and pulled up the lease agreement for Vertex AI. It was a thick document, negotiated 3 years ago by their former CFO, a man named Marcus who was decent, careful, and now, apparently, gone. I scanned the pages until I found what I was looking for. Section 14. See parking easements and asset conduct. My eyes scanned the legalese. A slow warmth spread through my chest. Oh, Devin, you didn't just park in my spot. You parked in a breach of contract. To understand why the Bentley was the nail in the coffin, you have to understand the corpse. Vertex AI moved in 8 months ago. Back then, they were different. They were run by a CFO named Marcus and a CEO who was a brilliant, quiet engineer. I liked Marcus, understood that a commercial lease wasn't a suggestion, it was a Bible. We signed the paperwork over a bottle of Pinot in a conference room that smelled of lemon polish. He respected the building. He respected the history. But in Silicon Valley, companies age in dog years. 6 months ago, Vertex got a massive injection of Series B funding. $50 million. With that money came the bloat. Marcus was transitioned out for not being aggressive enough. The quiet engineer CEO was pushed to a figurehead role. And in walked the growth hackers. The Devons. The atmosphere of building a shifted overnight. The lobby, which I had designed with mid-century modern minimalism, teak wood, soft lighting, silence, was suddenly infested with neon signs that said things like hustle harder and move fast and break things. They literally broke things. They broke the automatic blinds. They broke the coffee machine in the lobby, scuffed the limestone floors with electric scooters they insisted on riding indoors. I tolerated it. I cashed the checks. The rent was exorbitant and they paid on time. But money doesn't buy manners, and it certainly doesn't buy class. Around 10 o'clock a.m., a few hours after the key toss incident, I went down to the shared cafe on the ground floor. This is a space I heavily subsidize to keep the tenants happy. High-end espresso, local pastries, the works. I was standing in line behind a cluster of Vertex employees. They all looked the same, Patagonia vests, all-birds shoes, and the frantic energy of people who are paid to panic. Devin was at the front of the line. I could hear him from 20 feet away. What do you mean you're out of oat milk? His voice wasn't just loud, it was performative. He wanted everyone to know he was inconvenienced. The barista, sweet girl named Sarah who is working her way through a master's in sociology, looked terrified. I'm sorry, sir. The delivery is late. We have almond, soy, macadamia, and regular. I don't do almond. Almond is bad for the bees, Sarah. Do you hate bees? Devin leaned over the counter, tapping his platinum credit card on the marble. I pay a premium for this office space. That premium includes oat milk. It's in the SLA. I stood there, blinking. It was definitely not in the service level agreement. I wrote the SLA. It covers HVAC uptime, security patrols, and elevator maintenance. It does not cover the specific nut juice preferences of mid-level management. I can check the back again, Sarah stammered. Don't check, fix it. Send an intern to Whole Foods. I don't care. Just get me my coffee, or I'm going to have a chat with the building management about the vendor quality here. I stepped forward, adjusting my heavy jacket. I looked like a janitor, remember, sir? I said, pitching my voice low and deferential. The grocery store is 2 blocks away. Maybe one of your team could run over. Devin spun around. He didn't recognize me from the parking lot incident immediately, or maybe I just barely registered as a human being to him. He squinted. Oh, you again. The valet. Did you park my car? The car is where you left it, I said. He laughed, a sharp, arcing sound. Useless. Everyone in this building who isn't writing code is useless. He turned back to Sarah. Cancel the order. I'm tweeting about this. This place is a dump. He stormed out, his entourage trailing behind him like pilot fish following a shark. A junior employee from Vertex, a young woman with tired eyes and a hoodie that looked 3 sizes too big, lingered at the counter. She looked at me, then at the door where Devin had vanished. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to Sarah, dropping a $5 bill in the tip jar. Then she looked at me. He's a lot. HR has a file on him the size of a dictionary, but he brings in the revenue, so..." She shrugged, looking defeated. "That guy is a walking lawsuit waiting to happen." "Is that so?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "Shame. The building is usually so quiet." "Yeah, well," she sighed, grabbing her black coffee. "Enjoy the quiet while you can. He's trying to get the board to approve a campus takeover. He wants to turn the courtyard into a pickleball court." She walked away. I stood there, freezing. The courtyard, my courtyard. The one with the Japanese maples my husband planted with his own hands 20 years ago. The one designed for meditation and quiet reflection. Pickleball. The rage that flared in my stomach wasn't hot. It was cold, liquid nitrogen. I looked at Sarah. "I'll have a black coffee, Sarah. Don't worry about him." "He's awful, Mrs. Mercer," Sarah whispered. "She knows who I am. She's one of the few who does. He treats everyone like dirt." "Dirt is patient, Sarah," I said, taking the cup. "Dirt eventually covers everything." I took my coffee and walked back to the elevators. I had amused curiosity before. Now I had a mission. Pickleball courts over my dead body. I needed to go back to the lease, needed to see exactly how much rope Marcus had left in that contract, and I was going to use every inch of it to hang Devin's career. 2 days later, the sound of jackhammers woke the campus up at 7:00 a.m. I wasn't in my office yet. I was inspecting the irrigation lines on the south lawn. I heard the rat-a-tat-tat echoing off the glass facades and felt the vibration in the soles of my boots. Construction requires permits. Construction requires approval. Construction requires me. I hadn't approved anything. I drove my golf cart. Yes, I have a golf cart, and I look ridiculous in it, but it's efficient, around the corner to the guest parking lot. There they were. 3 white vans marked Quick Charge Solutions. A crew of guys was tearing up the pristine asphalt of the guest lot, not the tenant lot, the guest lot, and trenching through a bed of ornamental grasses to lay conduit. Devin was standing there, pointing at a blueprint on an iPad, wearing a hard hat that looked pristine. I parked the cart and walked over. The destruction was visceral. They had severed the root systems of 3 mature agapanthus bushes. They were drilling directly into a retaining wall that I knew for a fact contained the main fiber optic trunk for the entire campus. "Stop," I yelled, waving my arms. "Shut it down." The foreman looked up, saw a crazy lady in a canvas jacket, and hesitated. Jackhammers wound down. Devin turned slowly. He rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd detach. "Oh my God, you again? Are you stalking me? Do you not have toilets to scrub?" "You cannot dig here," I said, ignoring the insult. "This is a guest lot, and that wall contains the fiber lines for Building B. If you drill through that, you knock out the internet for the medical research firm next door. They are doing live clinical trials." "Relax, Grandma," Devin sneered. "I'm installing private EV chargers. For the execs, we need dedicated superchargers. I don't care about the medical nerds. I care about charging my Taken in 20 minutes. Did you get a permit?" I asked. "Did you get landlord approval?" "I am the landlord, basically," he scoffed. "Vertex pays 60% of the rent in this park. I own this place. Now get out of my way before I call security." "I am security," I muttered. He had already turned back to the foreman. "Keep drilling. If she bothers you again, spray her with the hose." I stepped back. I took a photo of the trench. I took a photo of the severed roots. I took a photo of the Quick Charge van license plates. Then I walked away. He wanted to play I own the place. Fine. That evening, there was a monthly tenant mixer in the main lobby. Usually, I skip these. It's a lot of cheap Chardonnay and business card swapping. But tonight, put on a blazer over my work clothes, my version of formal wear, and went down. The lobby was loud. Vertex had taken over the event, naturally. They had brought in a DJ who was playing EDM at a volume that made the windows rattle. Devin was in the center of a circle of young admirers, holding a glass of champagne like a scepter. I drifted to the edge of the circle, nursing a sparkling water. So I told the old hag, Devin was shouting over the bass drop, counting the morning's events, that if she wants to stop progress, she can go work at the library. "We're taking over the whole lot soon anyway. I'm going to pave over that stupid garden in the back and put in a drone landing pad." The group laughed, a sycophantic laugh. "But what about the lease?" someone asked. "Doesn't the landlord have say?" Devin scoffed. The landlord is some shell company, Mercer Holdings. Probably some absentee boomer living in Florida. I don't care as long as the check clears. I haven't even read the lease. Why would I? We're Vertex. We do what we want. I haven't even read the lease. The words hung in the air like a beautiful, shimmering target. He hadn't read it. He didn't know about the easement clauses. He didn't know about the quiet enjoyment stipulations. And he certainly didn't know about Section 22, material alteration of premises and asset forfeiture. I smiled. It was the first genuine smile I'd had in days. I turned to leave and Devin caught my eye. He winked, a mocking, arrogant wink. Enjoying the free booze, janitor, he mouthed. I raised my water glass to him. Cheers, Devin, drink up. I went back to my office. It was 9:00 p.m. I called Lydia. Lydia is my external compliance officer. She's a chain-smoking ex-building inspector who hates everyone, but she hates code violations the most. Lydia, I said when she picked up, I have a job for you. Is it that tech company? She rasped. It is. Did they break something? They're drilling into the fiber easement to install unauthorized high-voltage chargers in a common area, I said. Silence on the other end. Then the sound of a lighter flicking. A deep inhale. I'll be there at 6:00 a.m., Lydia said. Bring the blueprints. I'm going to bury these idiots in red tape. Oh, Lydia, I said, watching the party lights pulse below my window. It's not just red tape. We're building a dossier. Lydia arrived as promised, looking like a noir detective who had given up on solving murders to focus on zoning laws. She wore a trench coat, despite the California sun, and carried a clipboard that looked like a weapon. She didn't look at me. She looked at the trench in the asphalt. Unshielded conduit, she mumbled, kicking a piece of plastic pipe. Less than 18 inches of cover. No warning tape. This is a fire hazard, a trip hazard, and an insult to the National Electric Code. Document it, I said, holding the tape measure. For the next 3 days, we became invisible shadows. We didn't confront Devin. We didn't yell. We just watched and we wrote. The dossier began to grow. It wasn't just the parking or the chargers. When you start looking at a company run by people who think rules are for legacy industries, you find rot everywhere. Violation 1, unauthorized subletting. We found a startup selling crypto mining heaters operating out of a supply closet on the 3rd floor. Devin was charging them rent in Bitcoin. That's a direct breach of the exclusivity clause. Violation 2, fire code. They had blocked the emergency exit in the West Wing with a foosball table and a pallet of Soylent. Lydia actually cackled when she saw that. If there's a fire, she rasped, die screaming over who gets the goalie. Violation 3, noise pollution. The medical research firm next door, my best tenant, who pays 5 years in advance, filed a formal complaint. Apparently, Vertex's creative brainstorming sessions involved a subwoofer that was vibrating the microscopes in the lab. They think this is we work, Lydia said, snapping photos of a kedgerator plugged into a surge protector that was daisy-chained to 3 other surge protectors. Think they're in a frat house. They don't realize you're the owner. Why haven't you told them? I looked at the photo of the kedgerator. Because if I tell them, they'll just apologize and try to pay a fine. They'll try to charm me. I don't want an apology, Lydia. I want them out, or I want them broken. You're enjoying this, she accused, scribbling furiously. I'm protecting my asset, I lied. I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the feeling of the trap snapping shut. The turning point of the investigation came on Thursday. I was in the lobby, polishing the brass handrails. Yes, I do that sometimes. It calms me when I overheard Devin on the phone. He was pacing, loud as always. Yeah, the board is pushing back on the burn rate, he was saying. But I told them we have the facility locked down. I told them we own the lease on the parking structure. Yeah, I lied. Who cares? They are in New York, not going to fly out here to count parking spots. As long as the valuation holds until the IPO, I'm cashing out. I froze. My polishing cloth stopped moving. He wasn't just a bad tenant. He was defrauding his own investors. He was claiming assets he didn't have, specifically my parking structure, to pump up the company's valuation. I went back to my office and called my lawyer, intense, shark-eyed man named Soulful named Arthur. Arthur, I said, hypothetically, if a tenant claims ownership of common areas to secure funding, and those common areas are explicitly defined as landlord-controlled in the lease, is that just a breach, or is it fraud? Arthur chuckled. Ava, that's piercing the corporate veil. That exposes the officers to personal liability. Why? Who's being stupid? Vertex, I said. The AI guys. I thought they were the next unicorn. They're a donkey in a party hat, Arthur. I need you to prep a notice of default. But don't send it yet. I need one more thing. What? I need him to do it again. I need him to claim the property in front of a witness I can use. You're scary when you're quiet, Ava. I'm not quiet, Arthur. I'm just muted. I hung up. The dossier was 2 inches thick. Photos, decibel readings, fire marshal reports, and now the hint of securities fraud. But I needed the kill shot. I needed him to disrespect the property in front of the money. And because the universe sometimes rewards the patient, I saw the schedule on the lobby monitor. Friday, 2:00 p.m., Vertex AI International Investor Walkthrough. Perfect. Friday afternoon. The sun was high and brutal, bleaching the color out of the asphalt. A fleet of black SUVs pulled up to the main entrance. This wasn't the usual Uberlux crowd. This was serious money. SoftBank money, sovereign wealth fund money. Men in suits that cost more than my car, stepping out into the heat, looking skeptical. Devin was waiting for them. He had actually put on a jacket, though he paired it with sneakers. He was vibrating with manic energy. "Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to the Vertex campus," he announced, spreading his arms wide as if he had built the place himself with a trowel and mortar. I was nearby, trimming the hedges near the entrance. I wasn't hiding. Wanted to hear? As you can see, Devin gestured to the main building. We have fully integrated the facility into our workflow. We have plans to expand into the north wing next quarter. He didn't have plans. He didn't even have an option to renew. One of the investors, a stern older man with silver hair and a German accent, pointed to the parking lot. Specifically to the spot right in front, my spot. The Bentley was there again, parked diagonally. Again. Very impressive, the German said, but parking is tight in the valley, yeah. Do you have secured allocation? Oh, absolutely, Devin laughed, clapping the man on the back. See that Bentley? That's my spot. We control this entire front lot. We have priority easement. The landlord basically reports to us. He saw me then. I was holding hedge clippers, standing 10 feet away. The German looked at me, then at Devin. And the staff, Devin sneered, part-time janitorial. Hey, you, Brenda, snapped his fingers at me. Snapped his fingers. Get these leaves off the walkway. We're trying to have a meeting here. And honestly, try to look a little more presentable when we have guests. You look like you slept in a dumpster. The investors chuckled nervously. It was an ugly moment, a power flex at the expense of the weak. I looked at Devin. I looked at the German investor. I looked at the Bentley. I'll get right on that, I said. My voice was devoid of emotion. Good. Chop, chop, Devin said, turning his back on me to lead the group inside. Now, if you'll follow me to the server room. They walked inside. The heavy glass doors clicked shut. I stood there for a long beat. The sun beat down on my neck. I felt the weight of the hedge clippers in my hand. Humiliation is a funny thing. If you let it sit, it rots you. But if you refine it, if you distill it, it becomes fuel. High-octane, clean-burning fuel. He had called me a janitor in front of his financiers. He had claimed my property as his own, and he had parked in my spot after being warned. I took out my phone. I didn't open the Notes app this time. I opened my contacts. I scrolled past Arthur Lawyer and Lydia Code. I tapped a number I hadn't used in 2 years, not since a drunk driver abandoned a sedan in the loading dock. Frank's Towing and Recovery, a voice grunted. It sounded like gravel in a blender. Frank, it's Ava Mercer. Mrs. Mercer, long time. What can I do for ya? Need a jump? No, Frank. I have a vehicle on the property in violation of posted signage. Unauthorized use of a reserved space. Repeated infractions. Make and model, Bentley Continental GT, matte black. Frank whistled. Oof, that's a heavy beast. You want it moved to the street? I looked at the building. I could see Devin in the lobby through the glass, gesturing wildly at a mural. No, Frank, I said. I don't want it on the street. I want it impounded. I want you to take it to your lot in East San Jose. The one behind the junkyard. That's a hell of a retrieval fee, Mrs. Mercer. The owner is going to be pissed. The owner is currently busy lying to investors, Frank. Can you be here in 10 minutes for you? I'm already turning the key. I hung up. I clipped the phone back to my belt. I went back to trimming the hedges. I wanted the edges to be sharp, razor sharp, just like the clause I was about to enforce. Let's talk about lease agreement section 14, subsection D, paragraph 3. My husband, Robert, was a kind man, but he was also a paranoid man. He grew up poor, and he believed that if you gave someone an inch, they would take a mile, then sue you for the cost of the ruler. When we drafted the standard commercial lease for the campus, Robert insisted on what he called the asshole clause. Legally, it's known as a lien on personal property for breach of easement. It states, in very fine, very binding print, In the event of repeated, documented violations of parking assignments, common area usage, or safety protocols, the landlord reserves the right to remove offending property at the tenant's expense. Furthermore, should said violations coincide with arrears or material breach of contract, landlord may hold said property as collateral against damages. Devin hadn't just parked in my spot. By installing those EV chargers without a permit, he had caused estimated damages of $40,000 to the electrical grid and landscaping. By operating a crypto mine, he had spiked the unmetered utility usage. Technically, Vertex owed me close to $65,000 in damages and penalties. Bentley was worth $200,000. It was perfect collateral. Frank arrived in 12 minutes. His truck was a monster, a flatbed Ford F550 with chains that rattled like the ghosts of repossessed Civics. That the beauty? Frank asked, leaning out of the cab. He was chewing on a cigar that wasn't lit. That's it, I said, pointing with my shears. Key. No key, drag it, Frank grinned. Music to my ears. The process was violent and beautiful. Frank didn't play nice. He hooked the winch onto the Bentley's rear axle. Because the car was in park and the parking brake was on, the rear tires locked. The winch screamed. The Bentley groaned as it was dragged, tires screeching against the asphalt up onto the flatbed. It sounded like a dinosaur dying. Inside the glass lobby, I saw heads turn. The investors were looking. Devin was looking. But they couldn't hear the screeching through the soundproof glass. Just saw a massive truck hauling away the director's pride and joy. Devin's face went pale. He ran to the glass, slapping it with his palm. He looked like a mime trapped in a box of his own stupidity. Frank secured the chains. Where to? The deep storage lot, Frank. The one with the guard dog that bites. You got it, boss. Frank drove off. The Bentley bobbed up and down on the flatbed, a defeated beast. I went back to my office. I made a fresh pot of coffee, sat down and waited. 3 minutes later, my office phone rang. It was the front desk. Mrs. Mercer, it's Chloe from Vertex. Devin's assistant, her voice was shaking. Yes, Chloe, how can I help you? Devin is. He's screaming. He says his car was stolen. He says he's calling the police, he says. He says you saw it happen. I did see it happen, Chloe. Did you see who took it? I did. Can you tell us? Tell Devin, I said, leaning back in my leather chair, that his vehicle has been secured pursuant to Section 14. D of his lease agreement regarding collateral for damages to the property. Tell him it's parked in a secure location pending payment of outstanding liens regarding the unauthorized electrical work and landscape destruction. Silence, you towed it. I repossessed it, Chloe. There's a difference. Repossession implies I have a legal right to it, which I do. Oh my God, she whispered. He's going to kill me. Won't kill anyone, Chloe. He's a bully, and bullies crumble when you take their toys. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a board meeting to prepare for. Board meeting? You're not on the board. Not your board, Chloe. Not yet. But tell Devin to check his email. My lawyer just sent the notice of default. I hung up. The silence in my office was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was the silence of a chess player who just moved their queen into position and is waiting for the opponent to realize the game ended 3 turns ago. News travels fast in a building with glass walls. By 4:00 p.m., the story of the Bentley wasn't just hallway gossip, it was lore. I took the elevator down to the basement to check the meters. 2 young engineers from a different startup were in the car. They didn't know who I was. Dude, did you hear about Vertex? One whispered, the car thing? Yeah, savage. I heard the landlord is actually some cartel front who tows a Bentley in the middle of a VC tour. Devin is losing his mind. I heard the German investors walked out. They thought it was a repo because the company was broke. I stared at the floor numbers, suppressing a smile. Cartel front. I liked that better than janitor. The ecosystem was turning. Devin's power came from the illusion of invincibility. It was the guy who broke rules and won. But when you break rules and lose, you're just a liability. When I got back to my desk, I opened the dossier. It was time for the next phase. The towing was a physical blow, now I needed a structural one. I drafted an email, not from me, but from Concerned Tenants Association, an entity that consisted entirely of me and Lydia. I attached the photos of the fire hazards. I attached the decibel readings, attached the log of the unauthorized crypto mining, and I sent it to the general inquiry inbox of Vertex's parent holding company, a massive conglomerate based in New York called Onyx Capital. Subject: Risk Assessment / Liability Exposure at Silicon Valley Campus. It was dry. It was boring. It was deadly. Corporate boards don't care about feelings. They care about liability. If a fire starts because of a blocked exit, they get sued. If the power grid blows because of a crypto mine, they get sued. Saturday passed quietly. Devin was reportedly working from home, probably because he didn't have a car. Monday morning, the phone rang. It wasn't Chloe. It was a 212 area code. New York, Miss Mercer, a woman's voice. Crisp, efficient. This is Alina Vance, General Counsel for Onyx Capital. Hello, Miss Vance. We received some disturbing documentation regarding our portfolio company, Vertex AI. We understand you own the property. I do. We're seeing reports of lease violations, unpermitted construction, and a vehicle seizure. The vehicle was collateral for damages, I said smoothly. Standard procedure. Right. Well, Miss Mercer, we are flying a team out on Wednesday. We are conducting an emergency audit of the Vertex leadership. We would like to invite you to sit in. Need to understand the extent of the liability. I'd be happy to help, I said. I can have the conference room prepped. Thank you. And Miss Mercer? Yes. Is the building actually safe, or should we bring hard hats? The building is safe, Miss Vance. The tenant is the hazard. Understood. See you Wednesday. The trap was fully sprung. They weren't coming to defend Devin. They were coming to cut out the rot. And they were inviting the surgeon to the table. I spent Tuesday prepping. Didn't wear my work boots. I went to my closet and pulled out the armor I hadn't worn since Robert died. A tailored Armani suit, charcoal gray, silk blouse, heels that clicked with the authority of a gavel. I walked the property one last time. The spot where the Bentley had been was empty. The oil stain was still there, but I'd scrubbed that out later. I saw Chloe, the assistant, outside smoking a cigarette. She looked exhausted. Mrs. Mercer? She stared at me. Had never seen me in a suit. Hello, Chloe, you look different. I'm attending a meeting, Chloe. She looked at the building, then back at me. A dawn of realization crossed her face. The board meeting, the one Devin is freaking out about, that's the one. She took a drag of her cigarette, then dropped it and crushed it under her heel. He's in there prepping slides about synergy. He thinks he can talk his way out of it. He can't, I said. Chloe looked at me, and for the first time, she smiled. Good luck, Mrs. Mercer. Give him hell. I don't intend to give him anything, Chloe. I intend to take it all back. The conference room on the top floor of the Vertex building has a view of the Santa Cruz Mountains. It's a beautiful room. I know because I chose the table. A 20-foot slab of reclaimed walnut. At 10 o'clock a.m., the room was full. 3 suits from Onyx Capital sat on one side. Alina Vance was there, looking like a shark in Prada. Devin sat at the head of the table, looking like a man who had slept in a dryer. He was sweating. His tie was loose. I walked in last. The silence was absolute. Devin looked up. Confusion washed over his face. He opened his mouth, likely to tell me to empty the trash or bring more water. Then he saw the suit. He saw the briefcase. He saw the way Alina Vance nodded to me with respect. What is she doing here? Devin asked, his voice thin. This is a closed board meeting. Security, sit down, Devin, Alina said, not looking up from her iPad. Miss Mercer is here at our request. She is the property owner and our largest secured creditor at the moment. Devin's jaw dropped. Creditor? She's the facilities manager. I own the building, Devin, I said, taking the seat directly opposite him, and the land, and the parking lot. I placed my folder on the table. Let's begin, Alina said. Devin tried. God, he tried. Launched into a slide deck about pivot points and disruptive scaling. He used words like ideation and paradigm. He waved his hands. He sweated. The board watched him with dead eyes. Devin, Alina interrupted him mid-sentence. Skip to the operations budget. We show a $60,000 variance in facilities costs and a legal notice regarding a lien. That, Devin pointed at me, that is harassment. This woman has a vendetta. She stole my car. She's trying to sabotage the company because I didn't tip her or something. It's insane. I'm filing a police report. Alina turned to me. Miss Mercer, I stood up. I didn't plug in a laptop. I didn't use slides. I opened my folder and slid a single photo across the walnut table. It was the photo from the first violation. The time-stamped image of the Bentley parked in the reserved spot, next to the quick charge van tearing up the guest lot. This, I said, is a photo taken 3 weeks ago. It shows unauthorized construction that violated the city's easement on fiber optic lines. That construction risked shutting down the medical trials next door. The fines for that alone are $10,000 a day. I slid another document. This is the police report for the noise violation. And another. This is the fire marshal's citation for the blocked exits. And finally, the lease. And this, I tapped the document, is the lease agreement. Section 14. Devin claims he owns the parking lot. He does not. He claims he has approval for expansion. He does not. In fact, due to the material breach of contract caused by the structural damage to the parking lot, the lease is currently voidable at my discretion. I looked at Devin. He was shrinking. He looked smaller than he had ever looked. I am not here for damages, I said to the board. I don't need your money. I have plenty. I am here because this man is a liability to my asset. He treats this campus like a fraternity. He abuses staff. He lies to investors, and he parks, I paused for effect, in the wrong spot. The car, Devin sputtered. You stole my car. I repossessed collateral, I corrected. As is my right under the contract you signed but didn't read. Alina Vance looked at the documents. She looked at Devin. Then she closed her iPad. Thank you, Miss Mercer, Alina said. That clarifies things. She turned to Devin. Devin, effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending a formal termination review. Please hand over your badge and your company devices. You can't do this. Devin screamed, standing up. I built this. I am Vertex. You are a tenant, I said quietly. And you're being evicted. Security, my security guards, who I had texted 5 minutes ago, stepped into the room. Please escort Mr. Banks out of the building, Alina said. Devin looked around the room. No one made eye contact. He looked at me last. There was no arrogance left. Just fear. My car, he whispered. Where's my car? Talk to Frank, I said. The walk of shame is a long-standing corporate tradition, but I've never seen one quite like this. Devin was escorted out of the building he thought he owned, carrying a cardboard box that contained a fake succulent and a World's Best Boss mug that he had definitely bought for himself. He was flanked by 2 of my largest security guards, guys who usually spend their day politely asking delivery drivers to move. Today, they looked like executioners. I walked out behind the board members. We stood on the steps of the plaza. The fog had burned off. The sun was shining. The air smelled of jasmine and justice. Devin stopped at the curb. He looked left. He looked right. He was looking for a ride. But he had no phone company property seized. He had no car impounded. Then, the sound of a heavy diesel engine rumbled around the corner. It was Frank. But he wasn't bringing the Bentley back. He was towing a Tesla Model X, one of the Vertex company cars that had been parked in the fire lane. The driver, Frank's cousin this time, slowed down as he passed the entrance. He saw me standing on the steps in my suit. He saw Devin holding his box. Boss, the driver yelled out the window, looking at me. We got the list. Which ones are we grabbing next? I pointed at the line of Vertex company cars parked illegally along the red curb. All of them, I said. Start with the ones blocking the hydrant. Devin let out a sound that was half sob, half scream. That's the sales fleet. Not anymore, I said. I walked down the steps, past the board members who were watching with a mix of horror and respect, and stopped in front of Devin. You know, I said, my voice low, just for him. If you had just picked up the keys, if you had just said sorry and moved the car, none of this would have happened. He looked at me with wet, red eyes. You're a monster. No, Devin, I said, checking my watch. I'm a landlord, and you're trespassing. I turned to the security guard. Remove him from the property. I watched them walk him to the edge of the campus, to the public sidewalk where the real world began. He looked small. He looked like just another guy in a vest who thought he was the main character, only to realize he was just an extra in someone else's movie. Alina Vance walked up beside me. She offered me a cigarette. I don't smoke, but I took it. I just held it unlit. Ruthless, she said. We could use someone like you in New York. I prefer the weather here, I said, and the parking is better. We'll appoint an interim director tomorrow, she said. Someone boring. Someone who reads leases. That would be appreciated. She nodded and walked toward her waiting black SUV. I stayed on the steps. I looked at the spot where the Bentley had been. It was empty. The reserved A. Mercer stencil was visible again, stark and white against the black asphalt. I walked over to my spot. I stood in the dead center of it, pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. The notification had just come through. The penalty fees from Vertex had been wired by Onyx Capital to clear the lien, $65,000. I transferred it immediately to the campus beautification fund. I was going to plant more hydrangeas, maybe a few prickly pear cactuses, right along the guest parking spots, for texture. I looked at the empty spot. I took a deep breath of the eucalyptus air. My dignity hadn't left. It had just been parked in the garage for a while. And now I was back in the driver's seat. I walked back inside. There was a scuff mark on the floor where Devin had dragged his feet. Sarah, I called out to the girl at the coffee bar. Yes, Mrs. Mercer, she beamed. Get a mop, please, and then bring me an oat milk latte on the house. We just got a delivery, she said. Perfect, I smiled. I'll take it in my office. I had a lot of paperwork to file and a new lease to draft. This one was going to have a very special clause about key tossing. End of thread. If you enjoyed watching a tech bro get deconstructed, you know what to do. But seriously, read your leases, people, and be nice to the janitor. She might own the building.
Places don't hand out justice memos, but somehow it always finds the right inbox. This story was proof that quiet moves beat loud egos every time. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.